In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. O Holy Ghost, we ask you to bless and to inspire the work of our mayor and the councillors. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. St. George, pray for us. Our Lady of Ladywell, pray for us. St. Wilfrid, patron of Preston, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Right, so I need to remind you today that officers are recording the public part of this meeting, which will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube channel after the meeting. I'm not sure why the camera's pointing that way, but there we go. There are no plans for a fire alarm test. If you hear the alarm, please leave the building by the nearest exit, and please ensure mobile phones are switched off. Restrooms are located on all floors, but please ask a member of staff for details should you require one. Members of the public, members and officers, you're reminded that under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014, the press and public may film, audio record, photograph and use social media whilst the meeting is in progress for Part A items only, and as long as no disruption is caused to the meeting. Anyone filming is asked to focus their attention on elected members rather than other visitors. Now, as you know, the Council is committed to bringing long-term empty properties back into use and the provision of affordable rented homes within the city. Long-term empty properties can bring blight into an area, facilitate antisocial behaviour, produce derelict and unsightly buildings, and reduce confidence in some neighbourhoods. There is also an urgent and pressing need for more affordable rented homes to meet local housing needs. In 2018, the Council approved an innovative project to utilise Section 106 developer contributions secured through planning permissions in lieu of affordable housing being provided on site. In partnership with Community Gateway Association, these contributions have been used to refurbish empty properties once they've been purchased by CGA. All the properties have been let to clients on the Council's Select Move waiting list at affordable rents. Making Homes from Houses continues to be the only scheme in the country seeking to return long-term empty properties back into use by using developer contributions in this way. The partnership has achieved significant success with 33 properties purchased, and of these, 27 are already reoccupied and the remainder are on site. These 27 properties have been empty for a collective total of 112 years prior to being bought by CGA, the longest being empty for 13 years. Investment has been significant, with £1.6 million invested by the Council from developer contributions, £2.5 million invested by CGA, and £770,000 Homes England funding, levered in by CGA. The Council was shortlisted in the final of the National Housing Awards as Council of the Year for developing this project, but more significantly in 2022, the project was awarded the Best Partnership of the Year award by National Empty Homes Network. The project staff from the Council's Empty Homes team and CGA are present here today to receive their certificates. If you'd like to come forward, please.
Thank you.
Councillor Boswell has to leave us before we reach the Part B item at number 17 on your agenda. As this item is within Councillor Boswell's portfolio, I have agreed that we will consider going into Part B after questions at item 5. We will then go back to dealing with the public items from item number 6 after considering the Part B item. Can I also inform you that Councillor Mrs Atkins is absent today as she is attending the University of Central Lancashire to receive the first ever posthumous honorary fellowship awarded for her late husband, former Councillor Ron Atkins, who died in 2020 at the age of 104. The award is for Ron's services to teaching and education. He was the primary driving force for the establishment of Preston Polytechnic in 1984, and he advocated for university status as the University of Central Lancashire in 1992. What an honour to receive such an award from UCLan, and I wish Councillor Mrs Atkins a lovely day. She will be joined later by our Deputy Mayor, who must leave this meeting by 12 noon to attend the UCLan event. So I've also got a couple of further notices. First of all, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who attended the Carols in the Chamber concert a week ago. I'm pleased to announce that we raised £627.16 altogether. So thank you very much for everyone who came along. And finally, I want to pass on the best wishes from the City Council to the Honorary Freedman of the City, Freddie Flintoff, who, as you may or may not be aware, is currently recovering in hospital after an accident in filming. So we pass on our best to him.
Also, Mr. Mayor, my apology. Unfortunately, somebody ran in the back of my car when I was on my way to council. That's why I was a bit delayed. I do apologize for that. Thank you.
Of course. Finally, depending on how we progress today, I may adjourn to take a short comfort break, but we'll see how we proceed. Moving on to item number 2, is declarations of interest. Can I ask, are there any declarations of interest? If members can indicate if they have any disclosable pecuniary interest or personal and prejudicial interest in the items being discussed on the agenda. I don't see any indication, so on that basis we'll move along to item number 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of October 2020. Are members happy that I sign a copy of the minutes? Excellent, thank you very much. Item number 4 is questions from members of the public. However, none have been submitted for this meeting. So moving on to item number 5, which is questions to Cabinet members, chairs of committees and representatives of outside bodies. Members are entitled to ask a question of any Cabinet member or chair of a committee within their portfolio or terms of reference. Only one supplementary question may be asked, provided it is relevant to the original question. We haven't received any written notifications for questions from members appointed to serve on outside bodies. If anyone has any questions to ask on the information items on the agenda, including the special urgency decisions, they should do so at this point, as another opportunity will not be given when we reach those items. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So can I ask Councillor Wise first of all, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question's to the Leader of the Council, and it's about the cost of living crisis. It seems a bit inappropriate wearing a Christmas jumper asking this question, to be quite honest, because Christmas is going to be a difficult time for many, many people. And as it's a well-known fact that women bear the brunt of the cost of living crisis, but I particularly want to ask the Leader a question about women fleeing domestic abuse. Because the cost of living crisis is actually making it harder, and I believe this is going to lead to more deaths or more serious injuries, because economic abuse is being used as a form of coercive and controlling behaviour. So I'd like to ask the Leader of the Council for his opinion on this and what we can do to support women or men who are in domestic abuse situations and are being coerced by their partners. Thank you.
Councillor Wise, thank you very much. It's a really pertinent question. As we know, abuse takes a number of forms, and financial abuse and control in relationships is a big part of that. We did convene quite a number of partners in autumn. There's over 70 partners at the Gujarat Hindu Centre as part of a cost of living event, and obviously yourself and many others are involved in the scrutiny task committee that's looking at the cost of living. It's a very serious issue that we are taking very seriously, and we're going to make sure we put the impact the cost of living crisis has on women at the forefront of everything we do. We work with some really great providers. One is Preston Domestic Violence Service, and they will offer a non-judgmental approach to any women or men who might be going through an abusive situation. They can offer loans, support and impartial advice. If people want to contact that number, it's 201 601. We urge anyone who has issues in that respect to get in contact, or even contact your local council, because we can help. I think we've got to open our eyes to how bad life is for some people, especially women in relationships, and how bad it is for women in this economy, because women are disproportionately affected by low pay, poor housing, the lack of affordable housing, and again, they can be controlled in relationships because of that, and they need to be supported to be empowered. And obviously through the cost of living work we're doing, which is comprehensive, we are dealing with it like a pandemic type situation. We're going to do everything we can to support women going forward, and I pay tribute to yourself and other members of this chamber with the work that you actually do in that area to support women who are in domestic abuse situations.
Thanks for that answer. Just to make you really aware of how dire the situation is, Women's Aid have conducted a survey looking at the impact of the crisis on survivors of domestic abuse. An alarming 2/3 of survivors told the charity that abuse was now using the cost of living crisis as a tool for coercive control. And also 73% of women living and having financial links with the abuser said the cost of living crisis has either prevented them from leaving or made it harder for them to leave. So this is really, a really, really dire situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wise, and again, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yourself and many other members, obviously Councillor Khan and Councillor Morgan as well, are great advocates for women's rights. I think we've got to look at properly funding services, because one of the issues we have with inequalities in society is the fact our service has not been funded for 12 years. Additionally, we need to make sure people are in decent jobs, the care profession are respected, which predominantly affects women as well, and that we actually have social housing provision expanded again at scale, because the fact women don't have choices in the economy means often they're left in abusive relationships. They can't escape from them because of the cost of living issues you mentioned. So obviously, yes, we need to fund the services, fund the voluntary sector, but have an economy that works for everyone, because currently it is disproportionately affecting women as well as ethnic minorities and disabled people, and that's got to be addressed if we're serious about dealing with these matters. Thank you.
Councillor Potts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the leader. Over the last 10 years, over 240 million votes have been cast in Britain, of which convictions for voter impersonation has been 4 out of over 240 million. The Local Government Association says there isn't enough time for councils to do the new checks for May's elections. The Electoral Commission has said there isn't enough time to do a public awareness campaign to let people know they will need ID to go and vote. Could you give us an update on how this council is going to deal with it? And maybe even you want to give an opinion on how despicable this law is that's come into effect.
Councillor Potter, yes, obviously it's our policy to oppose voter ID. We feel it is disproportionate. I think we need to have a debate about this, because I think there's going to be other members who have an interest in that. It's also Councillor Martin Wallison's portfolio as well, so I'd like to bring him in as well. But obviously, as leader, we are opposed to this. We've got to make sure that we actually make people aware of the fact that they have to have certain ID, but politically we do oppose this measure because it disproportionately affects certain members of society, we feel.
You have a supplementary?
Could you let Councillor Saxena ask his question, because it's pretty much the same question, but I think it would be fair to let him ask the question.
Okay, yes, please. Councillor Saxena.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question was fairly similar. Except I would also, and it is Councillor Rawlinson I was going to ask a question, because it does fall within his portfolio. I was going to ask, does Councillor Rawlinson have any idea of how much electoral fraud took place in Preston? As I suspect it will be something like 0.00 something of a percent. And I think, does he also agree that exaggerating this level of fraud is an insult to the electorate, who are a vast majority of them are perfectly honest? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so both councillors are quite right. The legislation is completely unnecessary. It's utterly disproportionate. A really good example is 2019, where obviously we had the snap general elections. 58 million votes were cast and one person was prosecuted for impersonating another voter. So it's entirely unnecessary. I'm not aware of any voter fraud in Preston. I know there's been pockets of it in the past around the country, and that's been used by some politicians in terms of race. But this has been brought in. It's effectively gerrymandering. It's demographic gerrymandering. That's what it is, and of course we are against it. The Electoral Reform Society say that this will disproportionately affect young people. The rules that have come out on what photo ID you can use includes older people's bus passes. So most older people will be okay, but lots of younger people don't have photo ID if they haven't, if their family isn't, doesn't holiday abroad, if they can't afford to learn to drive, they've probably not applied for a provisional license or anything, and just don't have photo ID. The details of the supposed free scheme to get photo ID for everyone have not fully come out yet, and as has been said, we are just a few months from the announcement of the local elections in late March for May, before everyone has to show a photo in order to vote. It's a long list, to be fair, but if you don't have photo ID, my mother doesn't have photo ID, apart from the bus pass. It's a good job it's on that list. It's, there was a Conservative candidate, a local Conservative candidate last year, bragging on Twitter that Labour were terrified of voter ID and that it was going to change elections. So it's nasty stuff, I feel, and not having time to implement. I know that our staff in the past, when we've had major changes to elections, and when we had the change to the registers and getting people signed up, everybody had to sign up individually rather than by household. Our officers were fantastic in trying to make sure as many people as possible are on the electoral register, and I've no doubt that our staff will do that again in order to get as many people with photo ID so that they can vote. But it could be a huge task if this comes out any later. It's already a huge task right now. If this is going to be implemented for May and the details of the free scheme are not out yet, it's a huge task, and it's just unfair, and it's gerrymandering.
Councillor Borrow, is it on this topic that you wanted to come in? Yes, please.
If we're into a debate rather than questions, my comments would be that this is classic voter suppression, the sort of things that the Republicans do in the United States. And Martin has explained a lot of the problems, but I just think back, my mother passed away in her late 90s 5 years ago. She travelled abroad, she liked to do all sorts of stuff, but in her final few years, she'd given up a bus pass because she couldn't get on the bus. She didn't have a passport because she'd stopped going abroad. She never drove, so she never had a driving licence. And yet, she always voted. If this had been in place 10 years ago, she would have found it very difficult, given her age and everything else, to make sure she voted in every election. And it's significant that the Conservative leadership of the Local Government Association are one of the bodies that are actually asking for this to be stopped or postponed. And I just think, again, it's another one of those disasters of the Tory administration. Thank you.
I've had another couple of people indicate that they want to come in on this item, so I'm going to have to ask, do we want to go into a full debate on this item? Yeah. Can I have a quick show of hands for those who do want to go into a debate here? I was going to bring you back in as well, yes. Right, we've got people going in. So there'll be 20 minutes limited. So at the moment, I've got Councillor Hull and Councillor Boswell going to come back in. Councillor Hull and Councillor Boswell, in that order. I will be coming back to Councillor Potter and Councillor Saxena, whose questions started off this debate as well, but we'll follow in that order. So Councillor Hull, first of all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In Preston, we have worked hard over many years through our electoral services to engage as many of the electorate as we can. The problem we have is trying to get people to the election box. It's symptomatic of a sick society when we have a government in Westminster where we are in such hard times, are wasting money and on expense on trying to exclude people from voting. This is especially bad on the poorest people in society, the people who are moving around a lot, disabled people, people from other countries who might not understand how to have the enfranchisement and right to vote. And it is really quite stupidly a total and utter waste of money and more problems and more pressure on local government authorities to police this at a time when we're breaking at the seams. It is wrong on every particular count, Mr. Mayor, and we should oppose it in this council as much as we can, unless, of course, we believe in a smaller, more elite enfranchisement, which is what the Conservative Party in Westminster seem to be aiming for. And I, and anybody of a right mind, and everybody in this chamber of a right mind, should be trying to encourage our people to vote and not putting any blocks, locks or fetters in the way of that in any way or description. And I oppose this, and I ask everybody in this chamber to oppose it, because if they don't do, then they are not truly representing the people of Preston. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Boswell, please.
Yes, just very briefly, it is council policy to oppose this. We've had a resolution before, which I think the Conservatives either abstained or opposed. So it is our policy. That still is valid. All I was going to say was the missing variable here is the staff at the town hall who police and man the polling stations are going to have to sit there and make decisions on whether that photo ID is that person, and that could lead to some traumatic experiences, arguments, violence. It's unworkable. It's unworkable from their point of view as well, and I think we've got to bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henshaw, please.
Thanks. Forgot which button to press then. It's just a very, very quick comment. Obviously, we do all, I'm sure we do all oppose this, but it's interesting to note that the Prime Minister of this country was elected by, less than 172,000 votes. But that's not the point I wanted to make. The point I wanted to make is it's just a shame we can't actually question the leader of the opposition about this, because it's their party's policy, and you know, it would be nice to think that the people opposite will also have residents that are in the same boat as Labour residents, and can they take this back to the powers that be? That's my point. Thank you.
Councillor Whittam, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that, Councillor Henshaw. Yeah, that's fine. Obviously, Councillor Borrow's already mentioned about the Conservative LGA representation, and a lot of people have concerns about this, including us. I think we'll go back and lobby and do what we can do, and we'll all try and do something about it, because it is unfair, and it definitely shouldn't be coming in this time. There is not enough time. So that's all I can do. But it would have been probably better as a notice of motion rather than a debate, but hey, we are where we are. That's fine. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to the two people who asked the original questions. Does anyone else want to come in on this before we do so? Right, I've got no indication, so Councillor Potter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, it's nice to see a little debate coming up from that. It should be pointed out, just a couple of things to touch on this, is that Councillor Borrow made mention to what the Republicans have done in the US. It is important that the Republican Party was taken to court and lost for this being unlawful on grounds of racial discrimination when they tried to do this in one of the states in America. So, I mean, I don't know the exact reasonings why the Tories would do it, other than it helps them out electorally. But also, you have to remember there'll be lots of poor minority communities which will be disproportionately affected by this. Now, you can't be pro-voter ID and against ID cards, which is the current Tory party line. I'm against ID cards and against voter ID. So the inconsistency is absolutely maddening. And it's important again to realise, when they trialled this out in local authorities in Britain, 1,000 people were turned away for not having ID, of which only a third of them didn't bother coming back. You disenfranchised a third of those voters. But a question, and I don't know, I've lost touch with the rules with this one, if Martin and Matthew are going to be able to come back. But one question I will ask for the Labour Party is that there was a kill motion put forward in the House of Lords, because this has no mandate from any sort of election. There is no evidence of which the law is supposedly based. The Lib Dem Lords put down a kill motion to end it, and not a single Labour member of the House of Lords voted with the Lib Dems and the other cross-party Lords. They let it go through. If the Labour Lords had voted, it would have killed this law. Instead, the Labour Lords decided to put a motion of regret instead. I would love to hear the Labour front bench explain why Labour Lords sat on their hands and allowed this law to happen.
I will ask either Councillor Brown or Councillor Rawlinson to come in at the end, but first of all, I'm going to come to Councillor Saxena if he has anything further to add as one of the questioners.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one other point. This seems to be a continuation of a previous policy whereby electoral registration was made difficult simply because you had to register each year instead of having to be automatically on, and that's something which seems to be a sort of almost like a foretaste of what is now coming. I'll also add that I have relatives in the London Borough of Bromley, and that particular authority was another one which did the experiment of voter ID, and it was absolutely horrendous. I'm told that there were people people almost getting violent at polling stations simply because they weren't able to vote, and the police had to attend quite a few of them because of the difficulty. So that's the sort of thing we're sort of moving into. So I certainly hope that we can try and stop this happening.
Councillor Rawlinson, please.
I mean, I wouldn't like to guess the priorities at the time in the House of Lords. Obviously, Brexit was a major thing. But a kill motion in the House of Lords doesn't really kill anything, because the House of Commons is sovereign thanks to the Parliament Act, so it doesn't really help.
Okay, thank you all contributors. I'm going to go back to questions now, and Councillor Iqbal I've got down on there. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question would have been for Councillor Khan, but in their absence, can I ask Councillor Brown? With this festive time of holidays where we spend our time with our families and friends and loved ones, with that in mind, can I ask Councillor Brown what arrangements are in place for homeless in Preston? Especially, I mean, last night it was -8 degrees in Preston. Can you give us a brief, Matthew?
Thank you very much, Councillor Iqbal, and obviously I want to pay tribute firstly to Councillor Khan and her staff for the work they do tackling homelessness. It is very comprehensive. Obviously, Councillor Khan on an unavoidable absence today. It is really worrying, isn't it? Because we've had temperatures at minus whatever degrees for a number of days. So obviously, we've got a comprehensive set of measures where we try to deal with the issues out there. We've got outreach workers that we work with our partners, the Foxton Centre and elsewhere, actually visiting the homeless community in our streets at this very moment in time. We funded a new project to address the issue of poor quality supported accommodation, obviously with Councillor Mean, because we've got a number of new providers which are providing these services. We want to make sure that the people who are in those properties are protected. And obviously we've got other things, for example, like the Housing First scheme, because what we do, unlike many areas, is we actually put people with complex needs into accommodation first and then make sure they access the services afterwards. Other people, if they have a mental health problem, so in other areas, if they have a mental health problem or a drug addiction, for example, they're asked to sort that out first before they get a property. We do it the other way around because we feel that's the best way of protecting people. And also we've got the other key initiatives such as the Rough Street Sleeper Initiative and Changing Futures work. What I would say, Councillor Iqbal, is that many of our homeless community are quite vulnerable individuals. You know, we need to see the human side of it. You speak to them on the streets, many of them have been through some kind of an abusive situation as children, many have mental health issues. You know, we are in Christmas, and Christian values are about valuing each other equally, and in my opinion there aren't enough Christian values, I'd argue, in our society at this moment in time, because there's often a story of trauma, abuse and neglect with our homeless community. Often they have mental health issues, they're in and out of the criminal justice system, but if you actually unravel what they've been through and get them support, funding, and really try to unravel the trauma, they actually come out the other end. And obviously we're doing a lot of that as well, trying to make sure that people are supported into employment. You know, supporting women through a cooperative now into employment who are former prisoners. Many of them have been homeless as well. So we're doing everything we can, and we'll continue to do everything we can. And you know, pay tribute to partners like Foxton, who opened a day centre just earlier this week, Emmaus House, and many other organisations for the work we do. But also as well, I want to pay tribute to what we've done around providing affordable homes, both through members and officers, because you know, we far outperform any other council in Lancashire. 432 new affordable properties. That includes using public sector land, working with our partners to provide new affordable homes, and that's making a big difference as well. But we need support from government. We need to have a massive social house building programme again. We need to be empowered as councils. For years we've been disempowered. And we need to do that as well to tackle homelessness. So, you know, we are making progress, but we've got more to do. But I just think if anyone of our members can potentially donate to homeless charities in Preston, or anyone watching this broadcast after it's published, we need to do more and more, because the problem is getting worse, especially with the cost of living crisis, and obviously the severe weather is not helping in any way, shape or form. Thank you very much, Councillor Iqbal. Thank you.
Matthew, just a quick one to follow up. Really, on this note, at this time of year, would you join me in thanking all those people who are working these homeless and people who have other difficulties, cost of living difficulties and other social issues, those voluntary sector and community sectors? Thank you.
Yeah, on behalf of the whole council, I'm sure Mr Mayor will back me on this. A big thank you to everyone who's volunteering. Many people volunteer at Christmas, on Christmas Day and beyond. They're feeding homeless people. I mean, these are heroes. These are people we need to value in society a lot more. And, you know, I just want to put on record our thanks from every single member of the Chamber, I'm sure, for people who do volunteer and have done in very difficult situations. The work they do sometimes, some of the volunteers, is very, very traumatic, coming across people who are in very, very traumatic situations. And that has an effect on individuals as well. And I don't think we value people like that enough. I don't think we value public sector workers enough and volunteers as well. I just want to say that in this council we do, and I want to put that on record. Thank you.
I'll echo those thanks to the volunteers. Thank you. I have no further indications of questions. If anyone would like to... No, excellent. Okay, moving on, as mentioned at the start, to item number 16. So, before proceeding to the Part B item, we need to consider passing the following resolution: that the public be excluded from this meeting during consideration of the following item of business, on the grounds that there is likely to be disclosure of exempt information which is described in the paragraphs of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, which is specified against the headings to each item, and that in all the circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing it. Can I have a show of hands if you are happy to agree the exemption and move to Part B? That has passed, thank you. So it's going to take us about a minute to stop on the filming. recording is live again. We're just waiting for... Okay, it's just coming through now. It'll be item number 6 when we restart in just a couple of seconds. Okay, so item number 6 is a report on reimagining the Harris Your Place showcase contract. I believe Councillor Rawlinson is moving the report.
Thank you. This is the award of the contract for the design, supply and fitting of specialist cases for museum items. The cost is just under £700,000 out of the 16 million total Harris Your Place project. The cases are expected to have a lifespan of 15 years. The company chosen did provide the best costing and quality on the tender, and so we're proposing that we go with this.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Would you like to speak on that? No. Are there any other comments? Councillor Whittam, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question, and I know Councillor Kelly's not here today, and you mentioned it, the 15-year lifespan of the cabinets. It doesn't seem a great lifespan for the amount of money that it's costing to put those cabinets in, and I just wondered if there's any reason why they're only 15 years. I actually looked at the company and I looked to try and find something on their website, but couldn't find anything. But if you can't answer it now, fair enough, because I know it's not your portfolio, but it's something that jumped out as, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Hull, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's always to be encouraged that we do everything we can to encourage investment in our star building, one of the 3 Class 1 listed buildings in Preston. These cases, although it says a lifespan of 15 years, they may last longer than that, of course, and the cases that we had on the second floor preserve the perfume bottles, for example, were ones that lasted for a whole lot longer than they were possibly designed for. But I just want to give my backing and assurance, as I'm sure everyone in the council chamber will, to Martin Rawlinson and to Peter Kelly in taking this forward on behalf of the people of Preston, because that is, without any question, one of the most loved buildings. And once it's re-established again, it will be a warm place, as it always has been, in the library and the reading rooms. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Do you have any further comments? Okay, I'm not aware of any amendments, so we'll go back to Councillor Rawlinson, please.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and it is a guide. It's just a guide, and depending on how often they're open and closed and temperatures and all sorts of things, they could well last longer. I suppose a few of them might not last that long. It depends on the environment and the usage, but it is just a guide.
Thank you. If we can now go to the vote. Sorry, we'll just wait for Councillor Boswell to...
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so if we go to the vote, can we have a show of hands? Those in favour, please. Any against? Any against? Any abstentions? No, that'll pass them. Thank you. Okay, item number 7 is a report on the Central Lancashire Local Plan preferred options. This item was not ready at the time the agenda was published due to relying on external consultants to provide the necessary information and minor issues and discrepancies being identified by officers. I am accepting it as an urgent item because the consultation period is to commence on the 19th of December, with corresponding reports also being considered by South Ribble and Chorley councils this week. There is also an alteration to this item which has been published, and you will find a hard copy on the seat. Councillor Burrow, I believe you're moving the report with the alteration.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I apologise that this has been late. It's been a bit of a scramble to get it ready over the last few months. I think the summer of last year, a couple of months after I'd taken over this responsibility, we had a Zoom meeting with relevant officers and the lead members for the authority for Chorley and South Ribble, and decided to try and pick up the pace to make sure we could keep to the timetable of getting a new local plan. That had been delayed largely due to COVID, but I can say that at officer level and member level, we've been meeting by Zoom regularly for the last 15 or 16 months to try and push this through. And the aim is to start consultation next week. That will finish in February, that's the initial consultation. There will then be a period when it will be reviewed, a further consultation. The detailed timetable is on page 223 in the report, which is probably worth keeping in mind. The final bit of the process is for the final report to go to the planning inspector and to get it approved. It's probably worth remembering that if it's not approved by the planning inspector, we go through a large chunk of it again. So the aim is to try and make sure that we get it agreed between the three authorities and the planning inspector by 2025. Chorley and South Ribble Council have both had council meetings this week where they have approved it. It's perhaps worth just commenting that in both authorities the Conservatives voted against. Actually what we're asking to do, I said, is to start the consultation process. The figures in here in terms of, which is often what people are interested in, is the overall figures for Central Lancashire in terms of new residential properties is 1,330 something, and that split for Preston is 500 a year over the 15 years, but it's front loaded for us, so it's 600 for the first 5 years, 500 for the second 5 years, and 400 for the third 5 years. And that reflects the fact that Chorley and South Ribble will take a bit longer to get some of their housing allocation land available to come on stream. So it's just, we've worked as a partnership in doing this. There's a lot for people to read. What I would say is I'm very happy to receive emails if people see stuff on land allocations in their wards. If there are groups of councillors from wards who would like to have a chat over coffee about particular concerns, and there are issues that are not ward specific that if people have got concerns over, please email me. There is stuff in this report that I would like to see strengthened or in terms of overall policies, but it has been a bit of a scramble for the team based in Chorley to pull this together so that we can do this initial consultation. This is not the final draft. There is still a lot more to be decided. The key decision is to decide to go out to consultation. People may ask about the government's recent announcements in terms of housing numbers, etc., etc. I think eventually the government will work out what it wants to do. If there's consultations on that, we will respond to that. But I don't see any reason for us to delay and stop this, because we are going to end up with a local plan, and Preston is a city that believes in growth. We want people to come and work here, we want new businesses here, and we want to continue to make Preston the leading city in the county, and this local plan is a key part of that. I will try to answer any questions in my summing up remarks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded, please? Councillor Hull, would you like to speak on that? Do we have any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Potter, please.
Just a very quick one to reiterate what Councillor Borrow has said, that there'll be probably lots of us in this room that would like various policies strengthened or improved upon, whether that's on environmental, energy efficiency, all the rest of it that we would like to see. That isn't for this stage, and actually this is about making sure, seeing where we could potentially have new houses going forward. So just reiterating that, obviously, because I imagine Carol and her environmental portfolio will want to put really, really good, strong environmental policies, even stronger than what's in this document going through, and that will be part of the Jack working group, no doubt. But yeah.
Councillor Whittam, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we did have a very good debate at scrutiny last Friday for those who were present at that meeting. And we were given assurances about different policies and the strength of policies at that meeting. I know all about Chorley and South Ribble and the reasons why they abstained. We won't be abstaining. We'll be voting for it because I think it's dragged its feet that long. We need to get this consultation out, and we need to get it out there as soon as possible and get our local plan in place. Thank you.
Do we have any further comments or questions? No. In which case, I'm not aware of any amendments. I'll go back to Councillor Borrow, please.
Just to pick up on the consultation process, on page 231, there are details of the public consultation events. Most of those are spread around in Chorley and South Ribble because they are more rural areas, but there are a number spread across Preston from early January through to February. So have a look at that, see if you, I think, and I will say that I'm sure we can set up further events and further meetings with councillors if that's necessary as part of the process. I said this is the beginning of the consultation process. You can probably say the whistle's blown and there's a lot of work to be done over the next 12 months or so. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barrow. I'm sure those meetings offered will be very welcomed by councillors. So if we can move to the vote, can I have a show of those in favour, please? And any against? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. Wonderful. Moving on to item number 8. Item 8 is a report on the mid-year Treasury Management Monitoring Report 2022-23. Councillor Rawlinson, I believe you're moving this.
I know you've all been looking forward to this one. The Council is required to review and approve a mid-year Treasury strategy and prudential indicators. Audit Committee have reviewed these and are recommending Council approve the revised strategy and indicators. Obviously the main issue at the moment is inflation. Investment returns are starting to creep up, but of course that makes borrowing more difficult, and obviously quite soon we're looking to borrow for the Animate scheme. So the impact of inflation on Treasury management will become apparent in the next few months, really. Currently there's been no additional borrowing. We've used internal borrowing, of course, from our own reserves, so it still stands at 12 million and none of the Treasury limits have been breached. And I'd just like to thank the Audit Committee, who do an excellent job monitoring the Treasury management, as it's a very complex subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Brown, would you like to speak? No. Do we have any comments or questions? No. In which case, I'm not aware of any amendments. We will go straight to the vote, unless Councillor Rawlinson wishes to say anything else. In which case, can we have a show of hands, those in favour, please? Okay, and any against? And any abstentions? No, excellent. Item number 9 is a report on the localised council tax support scheme 2023 to 24. Councillor Rawlinson, I believe you're also moving this.
We are proposing no change to the current scheme, charging people on benefits 20% council tax was still one of the most difficult decisions we ever made, going back to, I think it was 2013, when council tax benefit was cut as part of austerity. There's not a lot of councils now who are not charging. There's still some, but it's a fairly small percentage. Asking people on benefits, especially in this country where we have some of the lowest rates of benefits compared to Europe, to pay 20% council tax is very difficult. Most people in Preston do diligently pay their council tax, which is of course vital to local services. But at the present time, we're not able to absorb this cost still, and we need to continue with the scheme as it stands. There are councils who charge more, there's some who charge less. This is where we find ourselves just now. Any minor amendments to the scheme, or just because of benefit rules changes, that's all they're delegated to officers. Yeah, so it will remain as it is.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Brown. Do we have any comments or questions? No. I'm not aware of any amendments, so we will go straight to the vote then. Can I have a show of those in favour, please? And any against? And any abstentions? Great, thank you very much. Moving on, item number 10 is the Audit Committee Annual Report 2021-22. Councillor Hart, are you moving the report, which is for noting only?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm quite happy to move this report. All members will have received this and hopefully had an opportunity to read through it. It obviously is the annual report for 21-22 under the previous chair, Councillor Woolen. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Councillor Saxon for all his support and help as we've moved from one chair to the other, and equally recognise the work that the officers put into ensuring that we get the work and the important decisions moved. Without that, we would not be in the position we are. I think it's worth noting that all councils and authorities are behind with their audits, largely due to the pandemic, and we, along with others, are making sterling efforts to sort of catch up and get back online, and we have made good progress in that area. In fact, it's worth noting that as an authority we are making better progress than some other authorities for various reasons, and that has been recognised by the various audit teams that are going through our information and data. So I think that's good for us as a council, and to be recognised the work that has taken place. I think I would also like to just recognise Kate Gregory, who is as acting audit manager, recently has passed her exams and therefore is fully qualified. I know she won't be happy that I'm sort of embarrassing her in such like, but I think it should be recognised, and we should applaud her for the work that she's done. We have a good team in place, and we are getting back online and catching up and ahead of some other authorities, and I'm happy to move this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Saxena, thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to echo what Councillor Hart has said, also echo his congratulations to Kate Gregory, so she might be embarrassed again. But also I'd like to point out also, despite all the problems, because we've actually been working for quite a lot of this period on a depleted audit team within the town hall. That problem has only recently been rectified, so hopefully we might be a lot better when we actually audit the accounts for next year. But certainly I think we've done pretty well considering. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, Councillor Rawlinson?
I'll just support everything that's been said. I think also the Labour group should take some credit for continuing to give chairs of audit and scrutiny to the opposition. Obviously that provides much more balance and accountability, and yeah, the committee's really supported us through COVID and everything else. Thank you.
Any further comments? In which case we are just noting this item. So can we just have a show of hands to note that item, please? Excellent, duly noted. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 11. Item 11 is a report on the modern slavery work plan study. Councillor Saxena, I believe you're moving this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think of all the items which have come before this council, I think this one has probably had the worst effect, has suffered the worst effect from the COVID epidemic, simply because, as you can see from the date, we actually commenced this work study in October 2018, and it's taken more than 4 years actually to reach council. Despite that, I think the issues are still there. In fact, to some extent, they're even worse, because there are all sorts of other countries involved. You will notice somewhere in the report, where in part of my conference report, there's a list of countries from which most modern slavery from overseas seems to emanate. At that time, Vietnam seemed to top the board. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we're getting other countries now which seem to have gone in front of that. But despite that, I think the recommendations are fully relevant. The recommendations are actually on little page 5. Oh no, that's a scoping. Sorry. Here we are. Page 7, I think, is the report. Yeah, page 63 at the top. There are 5 main recommendations, and I would like, and I think if in future work studies from our committee, I would like comms to produce a press release. So, because there's insufficient public knowledge about what we're doing, and some of the bodies which we're making recommendations to are not actually part of this council, including the police and the community safety partnership as well. But there is at least one here, which is number 5, which is very much geared to the council. And I would very much hope that we start implementing this as soon as we possibly can. Anyway, the report is there. I'd like to thank all the members who are involved. Because of the time involved, there's quite a lot of different members, some of whom are no longer on the council. But they've all, in some ways, they've all contributed their part to it. I would like to thank them. And to the officers, it was quite a job doing this one. But I thanks all to the officers who actually contributed as well and did lots of the spade work. Anyway, it's here now, so I hope we can sign it off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Hull. Would you like to speak on it?
I was on the crime and disorder when this first started in 2018, and it's something that is very personal. It's very difficult to recognise when people are generally kept in slavery. We did have one prosecution a few years ago on London Road at a car wash place, which was highlighted this problem. But one of the things is that as councillors we should be vigilant to try and discover if there are people in this very hidden area of society in our wards. It was a result to get the people who were using the employees on London Road as slaves, basically, not even indentured labour. So just to help to tell people that we should support this report and that the work that's been done on it by the crime and disorder is very valuable to the community of Preston and that I recommend what Jonathan and his team have done, and it's a shame that it's taken so long to come together, but with such a difficult subject that isn't so surprising. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? Councillor Misselton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say it's a really comprehensive report, Councillor Saxena, and it's pleasing to say that some of the recommendations have already commenced, which is good. It's been a long time coming due to obvious pandemic reasons, but it's a real comprehensive report, so thank you for that.
Thank you. I've got no further indications to speak, so let's go straight to the vote. Can I have a show of hands, those in favour, please? Any against? Any abstentions? No, passes. Wonderful. Moving on. Item 11A is an additional urgent report for the Council, which I have accepted. The report was unavailable at the time the agenda was printed, as confirmation of Preston's allocation from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund was only received from the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities late afternoon on the 5th of December. Responses are required to be sent to the Government Department accepting the grant by the 16th of December 2022. Councillor Brown, I believe you're moving the report.
Mr. Mayor, yes, this is me. Thank you very much. Firstly, big thanks to the officers that put this together at very short notice. We continue to have capacity issues within our authority, but they did get the investment plan together very well. Obviously, money is welcome that we're getting in terms of this shared prosperity funding, but we've got to put it into context. This is less than 40% that we got under when we're members of the European Union in terms of funding for our community. If you put match funding into it as well, it's a lot less. So the perceived benefits of Brexit, or the kind of Brexit we're having, is a bit of an illusion in the sense that yes, the council will have this money to spend, but the wider wealth in our circulating in our local economy is a lot less. But obviously, we're going to make the most of what we're given from this Conservative government, and we're quite pleased that some of the things we're doing we feel are quite transformative within this report. So the Council's requested to do 4 things, which are at page 233. Very simple: authorise the Chief Executive to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Council and the relevant Secretary of State so we can deliver the project. Note the provisional funding allocation, approve the fully funded revenue budget increase from this year, the following year and the year after, and also look at the a funded additional allocation to the capital budget programme. This scheme was actually announced on the 13th of April 2022, so it's taken some time to get where we are. And again, it really is a plea to anyone who can lobby government, probably the Conservatives, that if they do announce these schemes that they're delivered on time. We also have the issue of the Levelling Up Fund, which we've applied for, we've not heard anything. And you know, saying this scheme is going to run this financial year when we're at the end of it is not helpful to anyone really, because obviously we need to recruit staff from this and deliver these projects. But obviously we think we've put together a very impressive proposal. What it will do is invest in communities in place, support local businesses and support people and skills. And obviously £5.2 million for this authority is not insignificant in terms of the austerity that we've had in the last few years. So basically it's going to do lots of things around supporting our voluntary sector, capacity building and infrastructure, energy efficiency measures, which obviously we're going to target to tackle the financial inclusion, the financial crisis as well, tackle digital exclusion, address fuel poverty through energy efficiency, decarbonisation, supporting local businesses, promoting the visitor economy and events, and supporting local people back into work and to upskill. So obviously what we're doing is we're tailoring this scheme towards Preston to make sure that the work streams that we do sit very well with our corporate priorities and our manifesto. And some of the things that we're looking at within this, they are quite transformative, we feel. We talk about the climate emergency. We're looking at a citizens' assembly, so we can actually go into the communities and actually get their opinions about how we tackle the climate crisis. It does marry with our manifesto in many ways, that we're looking at whether we can deliver a broadband service ourselves in local public ownership that can target the digitally excluded. We're looking at cycle hire schemes. We're looking at whether we can work with our big institutions to recruit in the areas where we have the highest levels of deprivation and build on some of the work we've done already. So it marries both with achieving Preston's priorities and also our manifesto. So £5.24 million coming to this council. In the report there's the projects that we're going to do. Each one will be worked up and we'll actually have a project stream going forward once we actually start moving forward with this, Mr. Mayor. So obviously the money's welcome, but I think we've got to put into context that what we're told about Brexit and the kind of Brexit we're getting, you know, it's good we have this money, but there's less money circulating because of Brexit. And I think, you know, we just had a discussion about modern slavery. Since Brexit did take place, there's lots of issues around modern slavery that's increased, really. So, you know, the money's welcome for the council, but it is a loss to the community in terms of the resources we're getting because of a hard Brexit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Rawlinson. Councillor Bailey, you want to speak on this?
Yeah, it's just following on from the leader's comments. The Shared Prosperity Fund is obviously good news for this council chamber, but I think we need to remember that as a whole it's not really good news for Preston or Lancashire. Obviously after 12 years of austerity and obviously the current cost of living crisis and also the inflation crisis that we're going through at this moment in time, this is just more austerity in disguise. Now, I think the people who obviously campaigned for Brexit before the vote and then after the vote, I'm talking the key people that are still in government today, such as Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, etc., they have a lot to answer for because they promised that all funding from the EU would be matched. And obviously this report proves that it's not being matched at all. And therefore it is good for Preston and it's good for this chamber, but it's not good for Preston and Lancashire as a whole.
Do you have any further comments? No. Councillor Brown, did you want to say anything further?
No, Mr. Mayor, just the part that we're going to get on with this very soon. Obviously, money is welcome and we'll get on with implementing these projects as soon as we possibly can. Get people into work, decarbonise the economy, support the voluntary sector, support local jobs and local people. Thank you.
Okay, in which case we shall go to the vote. Can I have a show of hands, those in favour, please? Okay. Any against? Any abstentions? That passes then. Moving on, item number 12. Item number 12 is the notification of changes to the membership of committees. Are there any changes to be reported? No indications, so I'm going to assume that's a no. Item number 13 is the Leader's Report. Councillor Brown, do you wish to speak on the item?
Mr Mayor, it's just for noting. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
That is duly noted. Moving on to item number 14. Item 14 is special urgency decisions. However, there are none to report this meeting. So moving on to item number 15, which is the date and time of the next meeting. The date of the next ordinary meeting of Council is Thursday, the 26th of January 2023 at 2 p.m. here in the Town Hall in Preston. So I just want to thank you all for your attendance at the meeting today, and we've concluded the business. So I wish you all a very happy Christmas, happy holidays, and best wishes for the new year. Thank you very much.